Hello and welcome to this Thursday edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast on those platforms as well. Make sure you give us a follow. Interact with us on social media. It's the best way for us to know if you're digging what we're doing, what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of. Interact with us at PBW Podcast. We would appreciate it very much. Also, we'd appreciate if you hit that subscribe button on the BodySlam.net YouTube channel and that notifications bell. That helps them out. That helps us out. Everybody gets helped out. We'd appreciate that very much. Also, head over to sportnarium.com/player. That is SportsWire Radio, our partners, and your one-stop shop for everything sports 24/7. Check those guys out. And if you are just listening to us on a traditional audio format, hit that subscribe button. Give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much. Now that all that business is out of the way, once again, I'm Chris Belcher. Thanks for hanging out with us. Joining me, as always, is the young buck, my partner in crime, Mr. Andy York, holding down the fort for me last week. I appreciate it. Andy, we're back. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm looking forward to talking about Money in the Bank, previewing it. Obviously, talking about Blood and Guts that just ended about an hour ago as of recording this. So it's going to be a lot of fun to dive in and talk about it.
And you don't have to talk about it by yourself. You actually have somebody to bounce it off of, right? But no, in all seriousness, thanks to Andy for holding down the fort last week. I am back though, and we will keep this train rolling. Since I was out last week, Andy mentioned CCW. I certainly want to bring it up because yours truly got to do some ring announcing, and I heard your little comment about you all heckling me. Yes, I knew it was going on. Yes, I ignored you. I did a great job of ignoring you. I let you get your little one fall in. You know, it was fine. I heard it. I got
we
you.
also started a Chris chant. I don't know if you heard that as well.
I missed that part. I wasn't paying
attention. It was the four of us in the corner going, Chris, 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 Chris.
I missed that. That's pretty funny. If you would have got the whole crowd doing that, that would have been amazing. But what we didn't get to tell everybody is shout out to our boys, Hunter Knott and Rosario Grillo, TSF. Tell everybody about the little TSF spot that happened in the middle of the ring when they did their entrance.
Yeah, they just came out and, that's the good two fellows that they are, the babyface crowd loving. They just accidentally bumped into you and you dropped your papers everywhere. That's all I saw.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, those two strapping fellows. Yeah, that's what they did. They just bumped into me, right?
Yeah. I think Grillo's hand just kind of slipped and,
Mm-hmm. And then what? He called me a loser? What did he call me?
A nerd.
Nerd, that's what he called me. That's
right. Yeah. He looked at you and went, nerd, and walked away. Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. No, we may have had a little chit chat about that ahead of time, and that was fun. It was a good time. Good to plan a little spot with those guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, follow those guys on social media. Those guys are great. I'm sure that if you follow us on social media, you saw our picture with them after the show. Those guys picking up the big dub against the Crown that night. What a fantastic match they had. So support those guys. If you support our show, we encourage you to support them as well. Let's get down to it, man. The fallout from Forbidden Door. Before we get to Blood and Guts, we had a fantastic time watching the show and doing our post show the other night, and we found out that one injury was real. Adam Cole got a concussion. It wasn't his shoulder, it was a concussion. And one injury not so real. Dax Harwood's injury was part of the match. It was planned. So that's kind of cool. That again, we talked about old school stuff and them being FTR, bringing in old school elements to a match. Doesn't get more old school than sending the guy back to the back for an injury, taping up and coming back out, the old Willis Reed thing, Yeah. So we lost Adam Cole to concussion. Thankfully, it was just a concussion. Nothing's broken, nothing's torn. So clear concussion protocol. Hopefully that doesn't take very long. But really, man, that's all the fallout that I saw really from Forbidden Door. Did you see anything else?
Not really. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of fallout from this show other than maybe the women's championship. That's the only really fallout I could think of.
Right.
So I didn't really expect a whole lot of, and then obviously Blood and Guts was like the big fallout from kind of the story
Sure.
they've
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
telling for a while. So I think it was just kind of the fallout it needed. Um, I think we'll start to see more stuff kind of pick up after this week, probably next week. And I think it was smart, probably trying to give a lot of the guys that have been on for a long time, just give them the week off because there's been so many
Right.
injuries. Let them have the
Yep.
week off. Let this Blood and Guts thing kind of come out, and then next week we'll kind of hit the reset button and restart and kind of go from there.
Speaking of guys being out and all that kind of stuff and haven't been on the show in a while, full disclosure, peek behind the curtain, Andy and I talk about our podcast before we actually do it. Imagine that. We did not talk about this. I forgot to bring this up. You just jogged my memory, though. Did you see the interview that Kenny Omega did
I
that
did.
came out either yesterday or today?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I'm not the biggest Kenny Omega fan, but
Mm-hmm.
heartbreaking words knowing that, like, how tough it's been on him to try to get back in the ring,
Yeah.
and that not that he might not get back in the ring, but it's very questionable about how much longer he's going to do this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those cases. This is one of those injuries that he's going to have to rethink his
Yep.
style a lot.
Yep. Hmm.
Because I think he's going to have to get rid of a lot of the high flying stuff to really preserve his body. And I would much rather him not do as much high flying stuff and be around for a lot longer than try to keep doing those same stuff he was doing and get hurt more. And I think there's some truth behind that. There's some things that a lot of other people need to realize that as well.
Yep.
But I'm glad he's kind of got that perspective. But it would be hard to watch. It would be hard to think of AEW without Kenny Omega. It'd be hard to think of pro wrestling without Kenny Omega as well. So I hope everything's fine. Hope he gets fully recovered. Take all the time you need. Like come back when you're feeling good, when you're feeling healthy. And let's just go from there.
I mean, it's he's such a cornerstone of
Yeah.
AEW. Like when you think of the cornerstones of AEW, I know there's the Four Pillars T-shirt that's floating around out there, but truly, the four cornerstones of AEW is Cody Rhodes. I know he's not there
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Cody Rhodes, Matt Jackson, Nick
Mm-hmm.
Jackson, and Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the Bucks brought the popularity to
Mm-hmm.
AEW. Cody Rhodes brought the big vision of how do we take an indie show and make it global and that kind
Right.
of thing. So those guys brought the vision and the popularity, but the man that brought the in-ring stuff that puts your eyes on what's going on inside the squared circle, that's Kenny Omega. So
Yeah.
you're right. Like to see now, I don't think Kenny Omega is going to be totally gone from AEW
Mm-mm.
if something were to happen. He'll obviously still be there, and I think he'll find his way on screen somehow. But to not have Kenny Omega in the ring, that would hurt AEW a lot.
Yeah.
Like I know they're
Absolutely.
doing fine right now, but in the long run, that's going to hurt.
Yeah. This is one of those. Like right now would be the perfect time to have Kenny. Excuse me.
Yes,
As
for
there's so
sure.
many injuries and stuff, this is like the perfect time to have someone like Kenny. And granted, this was kind of his role through the pandemic. He was the guy that was carrying AEW on his back as champion, and he was
Mhm.
carrying Impact Wrestling, and he was carrying AAA at the same time. So like he was carrying a lot of different companies at once. So he is definitely one of those guys that could be and should be the face of any company he's in.
Yep.
And so for him to be out right now during this, injury bug, which unfortunately there are more injuries we're going to talk about tonight, like
Yep.
that, this would be the perfect time to have him. And the injuries he has, aren't going to heal overnight. It's going to take some time to
Right.
get him back.
And let's remind everybody, because I'm sure there are casual viewers of AEW that are out there or only know the guys that are on AEW for being on AEW. Guess
Right.
what? When Kenny Omega held those other titles, he wasn't just holding them as props on AEW. He was going to
No.
those shows and defending those shows, and he was wrestling a lot more in Mexico and other places
Yeah.
than what was advertised. Like, unless you're really following the dirt sheets and you know what's going on, you don't realize how much that man actually wrestled,
Yeah.
not just in AEW.
Yeah.
So a lot of, I say all that to say his bump card is getting up there. and that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to tonight. Just a couple hours ago, Blood and Guts is in the books. Before we get to the actual match, man, Luchasaurus falling under the spell of Christian Cage and actually being a heel. Oh, I love it.
I
That's
love
great.
it. I love it. There have been 2 heel debuts really this week for AEW because I believe it was on Dark that Julia Hart popped up.
Oh wow, I didn't
And
see that.
her, if you go back, you need to go back and watch her. Her entrance with the House of Black is absolutely amazing.
Oh, I'm
It's so
definitely gonna go back
perfect.
and watch that. That's
Her
great.
gimmick now fits with that. Her personality fits with that perfectly. So that's one that was really cool. Luchasaurus being a heel, I didn't think it was possible, but it's amazing. And Christian coming out, he's going to draw a lot of comparisons to Edge because of who he
Right.
is and who their relationship and everything. But it definitely gave like he's kind of coming back as the Brood as well. Like he's kind of coming back as like a darker, obviously not like, you know, mystical or anything, but he's coming back as like a dark character, a dark individual that I think is going to take this by storm and just run with it. So I'm looking forward to see who he's going to do. Obviously, Jungle Boy being out with injury right now, I think turning Luchasaurus heel and having him be with Christian is perfect right now while Jungle Boy's out. And then when we get Jungle Boy versus Luchasaurus, that's your perfect, David and Goliath situation, and it's a good way to get Jungle Boy over even more. And then when we finally get Jungle Boy versus Christian, then that's when everything's going to come off the wheels and everything's going to start working.
Did you notice the hush that went over the crowd when he came out? Like
I
that
did.
that is when you know that what you're doing is working. Because it's not like it was like people talk about all the time. Wrestlers say, I want people to react. I don't care if they boo or they cheer. I just want them to react. Well, stunned silence is a reaction. That's what we got tonight. It's like everybody was so like, are you kidding me? Like
what is
new
happening?
music, new video, new look. What is going on? You're right.
And I'm glad they didn't ditch to the dinosaur part gimmick. Like I'm glad that's still around because that's who he is. Because as soon as he turns babyface again, I think he's going to be one of the biggest baby faces in the company because he's already super easy to cheer for. So I think that's going to be a great way to kind of pull that direction for him as well.
When he turns babyface again, he's on Wardlow status or bigger, I think.
Yeah.
Because Wardlow's huge right now, but Luchasaurus just has that personality that everybody likes and has that character that the younger and older can relate to. So yeah, I think you're right. When he turns,
remember, I think the first AEW show in Nashville, he was away with injury for a little bit, and he made his return there, and the pop that he got was huge then. So I think when he comes back and he comes back babyface, it's going to be massive.
I really think this is one of the first, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, because I'm just not thinking clearly. Is this one of the first real homegrown talents that has switched from babyface to heel or vice versa? And that has really like been a big shocker to people? I'm trying to think and I can't come up with any other ones.
Julia Hart might fit in that a little.
Maybe.
A little.
Other than
I'm trying to think through.
I mean, the Bucks turned heel, but that's not really like
that could happen with any given show.
Right, exactly.
Obviously, MJF turned on Cody, but that wasn't. I mean, we saw it coming.
We saw that coming from miles away. Exactly.
Yeah.
Jericho, but he's not really homegrown. Like he's been heel, babyface, and heel.
Yeah, Christian. Scorpio Sky maybe, because Scorpio came in as a face and turned heel pretty quick.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
Lance Archer has turned
a
couple of times. He's like Big Show.
He's like Big Show. You're right.
I'm trying to think who else.
I just don't know that anybody has had this sort of impact that so many people were invested in. You know what I mean? And then you get this shocking turn that was like truly shocking. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I like it's a new character direction. It makes it adds something different to Luchasaurus, and it adds a different wrinkle to him, and it adds something to Christian as well. I mean, we've been, you more than me have been advocating for something for Christian to do, and the promo he cut last week, and then this week. I mean, that's 2 weeks in a row where Christian has been just as interesting now as he's ever been. At least in AEW, and probably since he won the world title in WWE. Like, that's the last time I can remember that he was actually somewhat interesting, and that was, even then, that was more because of Edge than Christian. So I love that they're doing stuff with him and making him be a big deal, but also bringing someone like Luchasaurus along with him to mentor him during this heel run, so that when he does turn, then we're running off with another feud.
I think you could throw his Royal Rumble comeback in there, but again, that was a one-off, so it doesn't necessarily lead to anything.
In front of nobody.
Exactly, that's true. Man, that's such a shame. Could you imagine if that would have been in front of people? Woo, buddy. Anyway,
Edge in the ring and his music hits, and
wow. Listen, I'm not the only one that's been advocating for Christian. Anybody that listens to Busted Open Radio knows that Bully Ray has the same feelings, if not stronger, than I do. So I am not alone. Let's move to the Blood and Guts match, man. The first thing I noticed with Blood and Guts, and I knew that not that the match was going to be great, but that AEW might be listening to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling podcast. JR wasn't on commentary for anything other than the main event,
which I'm fine with.
It's great. It's awesome.
Let him just call the main event. I understand he's not that great, but I will say this, when he's only on for the main event, it does add something to the main event because of who he is. And WWE did that for a while when he would come back and just call an Undertaker match at WrestleMania, and then like the end of an era, he came out to call that match, and like it added so much to it. So that was great. And I will also say this: the production of Blood and Guts was 10 times better this year than it was last year.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
There was a lot of moments where, specifically on top of the cage, it looked amazing. There was some stuff there was some stuff in the ring as well. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but you're not going to catch everything in this type of match. Like it's impossible to catch everything. So I really enjoyed the production of it.
I hated the production of it.
Of course.
And let me tell you why. I have good arguments here. Okay, this is not me trying to be a Debbie Downer. Let me first say I enjoyed the match. I was totally fine with the match. I'm not picking the match apart. I'm just picking the timing of the match apart. And here's what I mean. Number one, at least this time when they went up to the top of the cage, everybody else was laid out. Nothing else happened, so we didn't miss anything like we did last year. Kudos, you learned a little bit. So, good for you. I cannot believe they missed Ty Conti laying out Aubrey Edwards. I think that's the first time anybody has actually hit Aubrey Edwards when she got the key from her. That's probably the first time ever. And you missed it.
How did you?
No, you didn't.
If you look in if you see Ty, she grabs her by the head, and you can see that she threw Aubrey into the cage. You can tell what she did,
but you can't see it. You can't see it. Another thing, let me just say, again, Jericho comes in, does a couple moves, and he lays on the ground for 15 minutes.
That's
and
fine.
then
Jericho, he's old.
I know, but when he finally gets up is when they go to commercial break.
Yeah.
The alcohol spot and dragging Mox through the thumbtacks and the walls of Jericho all happened during a commercial break. I know.
I thought he dragged him through during. I thought they came back and he started dragging him through, because then that's when Kingston grabbed the thumbtacks and threw it in his face. And so they were talking about it on commentary.
Right, he was in the walls, I think, when that happened, but because when they came back, I thought he was already in the walls. He may have been working there.
I think that one was Moxley pulled out the broken glass and drug Garcia through it during the commercial break.
Yeah, he hit a pile driver on him.
Yeah, and then he drug him through it, I think, a couple of times as well.
Right. So, like, what I'm saying is, I know that AEW wrestlers have the freedom to orchestrate their match and do what they want to do. That's great. But at some point, when there's 12 guys in the ring and there's a cage and you're trying to present this as good as you can, you've got to coordinate some things. For
Yeah.
for another example, when Jericho and Kingston were on top of the cage and they went head to head and you saw the crowd going nuts or whatever and they start brawling, also during a commercial break. Like, don't
Yeah.
do that during the commercial. Like, wait for that moment. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I think there was some miscommunication though, because I think you could hear when they were on top of the cage, Jericho was asking, "Are we at break? Are we at break?"
I
So
saw
I
him
think,
asking something, but I couldn't tell what he was asking.
yeah, he was asking, "Are we at break?" So I think there was some miscommunication. There was some timing issue, maybe with them, or it may have just been, in the back somewhere. There was some mess up there as well.
Right,
But I think there was some. I think they were off a little with their
right.
timing of the way things were running.
All I'm saying is I don't care if it is picture in picture because when that commercial comes on and you hear the audio and the visual of the commercial, people are going to tune out. I don't care if it is picture in picture. Like it that's natural. That's going to
Yeah,
happen. That's television. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you've got to time those things up better. Like you rehearse this stuff. I don't know. Have a meeting. Lay all this out. Have signals. Do something.
Or
I
just
don't
have
know,
it be
man.
commercial free. Like
Or
just do the
there you
commercial
go.
free for an hour. I don't know sponsor wise and TNT wise, they may not have let them. They may
Right.
not allow them to do that in the second hour, and you don't want to
Right.
start off blood and guts with the blood and guts match. That's definitely your last main event, so they may not be
Sure.
able to do that. But yeah, I mean that's one solution that they may be able to do.
Yeah.
I think nothing production this time nothing took away from the match for me. I think that was part of the problem last year
Right.
is production took some stuff like it took me out of it a couple of times.
Yeah.
This one, the fact that like we didn't get the thumbtack spots during during the actual match, but it happened on commercial, like I enjoyed that because I got to see what was happening and it kept me more invested than the
Sure.
commercial itself. I was still watching picture in picture. That's also just
Sure.
because I'm sadistic and love that type of wrestling
Right.
anyway.
Well,
So it's a double edged sword. I mean, you
it
got to
is.
do what you got to do. You got to get your ads in and stuff, especially if you're going to show as much blood and stuff as they do for this
Yep.
match. I think you got to either go commercial free or limit the commercials as much as you can and put them in like the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then just have like the last 30 minutes of the match be without commercials.
I don't want to continue to just sit here and everything you said, 100%. I agree with. I don't want to sit here and harp on production because AEW's been a company for 3 years and they know clearly more about producing a wrestling show than I do. I just know what I see as the viewer at home, and it's frustrating
Yeah,
because I feel like a meeting or a layout or a rehearsal or something could fix these things.
yeah,
I think this is one of the issues that AEW runs into, and I've said this since they started in 2019. It's one of the issues they run into with giving wrestlers so much freedom in doing whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. I'm cool with their artistic ability and all that kind of stuff, but we miss things. The viewer misses things, and it's frustrating. Now, AEW could counter that with, well, just come to the show and you won't miss anything.
fair
Show was
point.
in Detroit. I can't make it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a fair point. I get it. But
yeah,
like, I don't know, man. I just,
and
like you said, it's a double edged sword.
I think there is something to the fact that like I think the crowd, like the in ring, like the crowd that's there, deserves to have more than the crowd at home. And obviously,
Sure,
during commercials, we don't get to see some stuff that happens during matches, and that's true whether it's AEW, WWE, Impact Wrestling, whatever it is. During
sure. Fair
commercials,
point.
there's nothing, and that's perfectly fine. And with a match like this, it's frustrating. I get it, but if I was in there in person, I would totally be fine with everything that happened
Yeah,
because you don't know any difference,
you wouldn't have a clue. Absolutely.
right?
No, I
And
totally get that.
it's a double edged sword when you're there too, because I mean I remember when I was at Raw in Nashville. and it was it was the night that Kurt Angle revealed that Jason Jordan was his
Jason,
son,
yeah.
and Elias smashed Finn Balor with the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And where I was sitting, me and my buddy were sitting, we couldn't see on that side of the ring, and all of a sudden we heard a guitar smash. We're like, "Wait, what just happened?" So
Mm-hmm.
it's a double-edged sword, whether you're there in person or whether you're watching at home. You're gonna miss
Whereas
stuff all the time.
Whereas I was at that same Raw and I was literally sitting right in front and saw everything happen.
Yeah,
Like saw the guitar coming and everything. Like
yeah.
I
I
was
missed all
sitting
of it.
right on that corner. So
I just
I
heard the
totally
crash
get
and saw pieces go flying up, and I was like, "What just happened?"
it. Totally get it. I understand. And you want to give everybody that's in attendance, you want to give them all that. I just think like WWE, when they structure their matches, they don't put their biggest spots during a commercial break. And I feel like AEW did that in this match, whether the
Mhm.
timing was off or whatever. It seemed
Right.
like some of their biggest spots happened during a commercial break,
Yeah,
and that's what frustrated me.
but on the counter side of that, I mean, you're always going to miss something because
You are.
of
Yep.
something because
Yeah.
2020 Rumble, the most famous thing was Edge coming in, hitting the spear on Dolph Ziggler, and we missed the spear
We missed
completely.
it. Yep.
So
We missed it.
everybody, it's going to happen. And
Yep.
with a match like the Rumble, it's difficult because there's so many moving parts. With a match like Blood and Guts, it's difficult because there are so many moving parts
Sure.
altogether. And
Sure.
so, if you can get, my opinion is if you can get like 75% of it, which I feel like we did, then that's more of a success than a fail because you
That's
got
true.
to see a majority of it. And like I said, if it doesn't take away from the match, then I don't see any problem with it.
I just gripe at their timing. That's all. Other than that, man, I enjoyed the match, especially, man, when Claudio climbed the cage and there was four of them up there. I was like,
Uh-huh.
there's no way we have not seen the giant swing yet. There's no way he's doing this on top of the cage. There's no way. And he did.
Yep.
He did the
To
giant swing on
Jericho.
top of the cage. Like, I don't care how much you trust a wrestler. I'm probably not taking that on top of a cage. That's
No.
insane.
No.
That's
One
crazy.
one wrong step and you're flying off the cage.
Absolutely.
This might have been one of my favorite blood and gut matches, like in AEW. This might have been one of my favorite because obviously the violence and the brutality was there because you're not going to have guys like Eddie Kingston and John Moxley in this match and not do something stupid.
Sure. Yep.
But also like Kingston going to the top and just chucking Sammy off. I mean, that was amazing. Sammy doing the flip in the air, all of it. When he hit the tables, I don't know if you saw it. When he hit the table, I think a water bottle and a towel just went
Yep.
straight up in the air. And
Yep. I saw
it
that.
was amazing seeing that. I love the way that they kind of structured the match of like how they did things. I'm glad that nobody was locked in a cage. I'm glad that everybody was like on their side and you just open the door and let them run in. That was really cool. And I love the fact that Blackpool Combat Club looks so strong because I feel like they needed to look extremely strong in this. And also, if Ruby Soho joins Blackpool Combat Club, then I am completely on board with that because
It would
that
be
was a
interesting, wouldn't it?
perfect fit for her.
It would be very interesting. I completely agree. But yeah, they definitely needed to look strong after losing two in a row, three in a row if you count the hair versus hair match.
Yeah.
So three in a row, they needed a big win. Very glad that they got it. I was very interested to see how they did the finish and where it's going to go, playing up the Claudio and Eddie Kingston thing. So that's interesting. I don't know if they go full blown feud or I don't know.
I think it takes a while. I think you definitely want to build to it. You definitely want to let it simmer for a minute. And I think there may have been something planned post match because I feel like I think I saw Eddie Kingston say he was hurt. When Claudio walked over to him and like got down on his level and like they fist bumped and then Claudio was like, "You want me to help you up?" And I think Kingston said, "No, I can't get up. I'm hurt." And so I think there may have been something planned afterwards because it seemed
I was
like
gonna
the
say
match ended
there
a
was a
little
lot of
short.
time.
Yeah, so I feel like there may have been something planned afterwards. Also, it's going to take a little while to get everybody up there on top of the cell. And I love the fact that they made Bryce get up there as well and raise their hand, because that was funny watching him climb up that climb up the structure. But yeah, I feel like it ended very short. Not short, but we ended with some time left, and so I feel like there was something post match that was supposed to happen that they probably called off. And I'm glad they called off if Eddie's hurt. Like, don't do anything that's going to cause any more injury or anything.
Eddie may be hurt. Santana is hurt. He was the only one that didn't get up there.
Yeah.
Santana blew his knee out on a spot that you can clearly see if you go back and watch it. So another one bites the dust for AEW injury bug. I'm telling you, it is a real thing. You know what else is a real thing? JR screwing up on commentary, because it wouldn't be an AEW show if he didn't screw up on commentary. He called Claudio Cesaro.
Did he? I missed that.
You missed it? It was in the very end of the match. He called him Cesaro. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Come on, man.
Fine.
You had one
close.
job.
It was close. Look, I will say though, listening to JR and Regal on commentary was kind of like was fine. I love listening to Regal on commentary. It was different.
It was very cool.
I think if we had a commentary team of Excalibur, Taz, and Regal, I think that would be a great commentary team to have, because Taz can be your heel, but is good at like giving credit where credit is due. And then you've got Regal, who is just, and I'm going to keep harping on this every time I mention it, one of the best minds in wrestling of all time. Having him on commentary calling stuff would be great to have that full time.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Taz on commentary. He's one of my favorite commentators of all time. So I think if you're replacing JR with Taz full time, listen, I'm all about that all day long. Like, let's do it. I'll even keep Tony Schiavone if it means bringing in Taz for JR. I can deal with that. Schiavone is getting better. And I think that's because he's putting in the work to get better. I think JR is just JR. And send your hate tweets to @ChrisBelcher24. I will field them all day long. I think JR is just JR. And it is what it's going to be, and you can't say anything to him, because it's like Bully Ray said on Busted Open a long time ago, when JR, he did something really stupid and they were talking about it, and Bully Ray used the excuse like it's Michael Jordan. Are you really going to tell him that he's playing basketball wrong or whatever? It's like, no, but when he goes out there and plays for the Wizards and he's not very good, you're going to call him out for not being very good? Yeah, you are. I mean, if he cost you a game, you're going to call him out. Who cares who he is? It's the same thing. Yep. So anyway, enough harping on that. It was a great night of AEW action. It was what it needed to be. It was the exact definition of blood and guts when they first introduced the match. Kudos to them for executing. I just wish they would have executed it 100%, but it's neither here nor there.
One other thing that I was scared to death for a second is when Moxley started bleeding. I didn't realize he had a Band-Aid on his head. And it was like,
and you saw it flapping?
I thought that was his flesh for a second. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened to Moxley? And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's a Band-Aid. Oh, we're good.
Oh,
like, for a second, I thought that was skin. And I was like, oh, we are definitely doing blood and guts. Like, they have taken this literal.
I saw it. I didn't know it was a Band-Aid either, but in my defense, like, I didn't look at it as it was skin. I just like, what is that? Oh, and then I realized it was a Band-Aid.
It looked like his skin. It was the same color as his skin, though. And I was like, oh my gosh, we are killing Moxley. He just won the title, man. Leave him alone.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Speaking of that, good segue. You didn't even know you did that. And I didn't know you were doing that until it just, again, jogged my memory. This Friday on Rampage, a Royal Rampage. Look at y'all trying to be like WWE. 20-man battle royal to determine Moxley's #1 contender. That's a way to get eyeballs on Rampage, man. Having the Young Bucks in a match and doing a 20-man battle royal, that's pretty good.
I would love it if one of the Young Bucks won, because I think it would be very interesting to have them go after one of the world titles. They've never really done that. I would love to see one of them go after a world title and just kind of see what would happen with like the dynamic between the two of them. But I think that would be very interesting to see that. But I don't want to sacrifice FTR versus them for all the gold either at all
Right.
out. So I'd much rather see that than them win the title.
If you're giving a prediction, who's going to win the Battle Royal? Putting you on the spot. Who you got?
I don't remember all 20 who's in it. Have they announced all 20?
They showed a graphic that had people on it, but they did not run through a list of names. I don't know. I mean, obviously, they can
and
hide
is this
people
for
on
All
the
Out?
graphic. They did not say. They just said the next
So
contender for Moxley's
okay.
title. So probably won't be. Probably be a special.
I'm still
Probably
thinking
that
Jericho.
Quake for the Lake garbage.
Yeah, Quake at the Lake.
Whatever. Stupid.
I want to say Jericho. I feel like Jericho. But if they're doing a battle royal, I feel like it's going to be somebody that's not
right
a big time player. You know what? Just for fun, Orange Cassidy. I think after his Will Ospreay match, I think he's opened up. He debuted new music. Orange Cassidy. Put Orange Cassidy in there. Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy is a different setup, a different style. Let them go at it for the world title.
I'm going to say Darby Allin.
That would be great,
I think this is a good way to get Darby Allin a world title shot on a special. He doesn't have to win, but you're going to get a great match with Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. So I'm going to go there. The only reason I would say no to Jericho is I'm pretty sure they're taping Rampage as we speak after Blood and Guts.
Probably.
So I would say Jericho's not even in the Battle Royal. I'd say they're saving Jericho. Yeah. So I would say they're saving Jericho for All Out, for Jericho Moxley.
Probably.
All Out.
Yeah.
Just in case Punk's not ready to go by then, or they don't want to rush Punk back. So that would be my guess.
Now the only other exception is Bryan Danielson. I think if Danielson's healthy, I think they do Danielson Moxley over Jericho Moxley.
That's true. Yep, that's true. I agree with that.
Because I think you could do like Jericho Claudio if you wanted to at All Out, and then do Moxley and Danielson for the title.
Well, yeah, that's like I said on the Forbidden Door post show. It's like you could easily do Danielson and Moxley. Hey, I just got to know, man. I know we're in the same faction and I know we're fighting on the same side, but I want that belt and we're going to be friends afterwards. And it could be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
All right. If you're just now hanging out with us, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. Follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Show is at PBW Podcast. Hit us up on those platforms. We would appreciate that very much. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching. We would appreciate it. And, of course, I'm not by myself. Mr. Andy York, the Young Buck, is with me, and we are talking all things AEW. Hope you enjoyed Blood and Guts and all that kind of fun stuff. As we look ahead, before we look ahead to WWE, did not do this at the beginning of the show. Want to make sure you guys are aware the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation is alive and well. Week 3 has just been released wherever you find your podcast and on BuySome.net YouTube channel. It is our fantasy booking show coming your way every single Monday. Things are heating up on the Mayhem side. Things are heating up on the Revolution side. Andy, I went back and listened to week 3 this week. I actually listened to it on my way home from work today, because you and I book so far in advance that sometimes I forget what happens on the shows when we release them, because we book so far in advance. But man, going back and listening to it, it's so much fun. Like, I love the way that these things are playing out. It's so cool.
It is very cool. And, like we said, we book so far in advance, and, maybe record early in advance. Maybe we don't. You'll never know. But it's very fun to it's very fun to see these storylines and take them, and then like organic storylines even pop up without even trying. Like, stuff like that is so fun to see that. So it's a lot of fun going through these and kind of booking the like superstars and wrestlers how we want to book them, and 2 different styles I think fits very well for both of us. So
it does.
And I think our rosters reflect that. I think our rosters, who we drafted, fits who we have like in our wrestlers and things like that. So it's pretty cool to see that.
Absolutely. Speaking of, I haven't even told you this yet. On my way to work this morning, I booked a match for my final pay-per-view in month number 6. It popped in my head. It was glorious. I had to immediately write it down as soon as I got to work. And I've already figured out how I'm going to get there, and it's going to be amazing, just so you know. So when we say that we book really far in advance, Andy and I both have storylines that go all the way to the end of this thing. We committed to doing this for 6 months and to see where it goes, and we already have storylines and how they're going to end in month number 6. So it's a lot of fun. Come check it out every Monday. The Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation, your fantasy booking show. It's a lot of fun. All right, on to WWE. We have gone long, and we're going to go long on this show, so hang in there with us. We got a preview Money in the Bank that is coming up this Saturday live on the Peacock. But before we get there, something that happened last week, I wasn't able to be on the show, so I want to acknowledge the passing of referee Timmy White and referee Dave Hebner in the same week. Very, very sad. And the reason I say that is not that I knew these guys personally or whatever, but Tim White and Dave Hebner were essential parts of my childhood wrestling experience growing up. Like, I remember specific things that both of these guys did. So to lose them in the same week was very, very, very sad. Andy, I actually got to meet Tim White. I don't know if I've ever told you this or not. I got to meet Tim White at WrestleMania 34 Access. He was running the meet and greet for AJ Styles.
Really?
So when I got to meet AJ Styles, I walked up on stage and there's Tim White. And somebody behind me said something about the guy that was standing there. And then the guy in front of me turned to that guy and said, "Don't you know who this is? This is Tim White. He's a legendary referee." And I did a double take and I was like, holy crap, that's Tim White. So it's very, very cool. So that's cool. My Tim White experience.
That is very cool. That's very cool.
So yes, thoughts and prayers to their families. Sad to lose 2 of the legends in the wrestling business, whether they be wrestlers, managers, referees, or what have you. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw real quick before we head to Money in the Bank. Of course, when we talk about Monday Night Raw from this week, John Cena is the subject of our conversation. Man, I was listening to Busted. I talk about Busted Open a lot on the show, I feel like. It's become one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. I recently lost my free Sirius subscription in my new car. It went well over the 90 days that it's supposed to go. I was very happy with that. But I recently lost it, so I don't get to listen to all of Busted Open. But man, in listening to the Busted Open podcast, they were just talking about how refreshing it was for WWE to do a tribute show to somebody who is still alive and not waiting until they pass on. Man, how cool was it for that whole show to be structured around the return of John Cena?
Yeah, it's awesome to see that, and obviously very much deserving Cena having this. When we did our Mount Rushmore episode months ago at this point, so there's an old flashback if you want to go find that episode. And,
go check it out in the archives.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. I think I put him. Did I put him on my Mount Rushmore?
I think you did. Yep.
I think I put him on my Mount Rushmore. It's hard to deny how great of a legacy John Cena has in WWE, and it's not over yet. I mean, he's definitely got some more left in him. He even said that he's going to be around for a lot longer now. He's going to do a lot more stuff, which obviously we got to go to Saudi. We got to go. We got to go to United Kingdom, England, and we got to do SummerSlam, and we got to do some other stuff. So it's going to be good to have him around for a while. It's always nice to have Cena because when he's there, at least it's going to be something different and refreshing. And he brings something different than anybody else on the roster, more so than Brock, more so than Roman. He just brings something different with him. And so I'm very excited to see him back. He made Austin Theory look like a fool without even saying a word, which he's so good at doing. And I love that he did that. I also love the fact that Seth Rollins walked up to him laughing his own theme song. Because that's just what Seth does. He knocked the Shield theme song when he went to Roman's dressing room and he walked up to Cena singing his. So I love that. And I'm excited to see because there's a lot of different directions they can go with Cena while he's here. I mean, obviously Theory is going to happen at some point, more than likely SummerSlam. But there's some other, really interesting things that happen. I could very easily see him going after Walter in England for the IC title.
That would
And
be
I feel
cool.
like he would be the kind of guy that would be in England and put over Walter on that show, because obviously, like, Grand Slam champion, the title he's never won, against a guy like Walter, like, that would be
Yep.
really interesting to see that.
I hadn't even thought of that. That would be really, really cool. I'm anxious to see if we could get another Seth Rollins John Cena match. Like, I am just, if Edge has turned babyface and we're not going to
Mhm.
get Cena versus Edge, please give me Rollins and Cena one more time. Like, I need that so much.
Yeah.
The other backstage that you didn't mention was Ezekiel and John Cena.
Yes.
You talk
Yes.
about television gold. Ezekiel saying that John Cena told me to how did he say it? To be who I am, or be true to myself, or something to the effect of that he's really Elias. It's so
Uh-huh.
it was so great. So good. Oh my gosh. One of the coolest things about Monday Night Raw, though, was, and let's not go any further without mentioning, in these tribute videos that they kept showing, AEW guys popped up. Big
It was
Show,
Forbidden Door
Bryan
week.
Danielson. It was for you're exactly right.
Forbidden Door
But
week.
it was so cool that they were able to do that. You know, they let AJ do that a couple weeks ago for Impact, and
Yep.
now they let the AEW guys do it for Cena. I don't know. I think I read that they reached out to AEW, but regardless of who reached out to who, it was cool that they got to do it.
I think I think what I saw is they reached out to Tony Khan, and Khan was like, absolutely. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
let them, they can do video packages. Who cares? And yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool to see that. Part of me was hoping, I knew they wouldn't do it. Part of me was hoping Punk would do one, because obviously Cena, and it's not just because Punk, but like Cena and Punk had a huge historic rivalry during that summer of Punk and everything.
Yep.
So that would have been really cool to see that. But Danielson and Jericho and Big Show popping up, that was really cool to see that.
So
And
cool.
it's nice to see uh, companies coming together for big stuff like this and doing things like this, because I think they even did some stuff with like Brody Lee and Luke Harper when he passed. I think they
They
both
did.
shows respectively did their own stuff for that as well. So
Yep.
it was really cool to see all that.
Yeah, it was very cool. The coolest thing, though, of all the things that happened on Raw was Cena. I loved, like we said, the interactions backstage, the tribute videos, all that kind of stuff. But the coolest thing of the whole night, I think, was when John Cena made his entrance. He's out there in the middle of the ring. People are just going insane for John Cena. A couple of years ago, would have booed him out of the dang building.
Yep.
You know, and like, and I get that it was the cool thing to boo Cena or whatever, but John Cena is the perfect example of not knowing what you have until it's gone, and how many people just miss John Cena. That was the coolest thing for me to see. Not a soul in that building hating on him. That was great.
Well, there was one person hating on him. And that was, I don't know if you saw this or not, but backstage when he was walking through that line, and Becky Lynch was sitting off to the side with their glasses staring off. And then I don't know if you saw the promo she cut after Raw went off the air. Which is, it's a shame that it was not on Raw. She said, if anybody really embodies hustle, loyalty, and respect, it's me, Becky Lynch, because I have never given up and I'm going to win back my title. Like, the promo she cut was amazing. But yeah, it was nice to see that. Cena's been one of those guys. Like, I hated Cena for the longest time.
I think everybody went through a phase of hating Cena. Let's be honest.
Partly because it was cool, but also partly because the dude just won so much. Yes. I mean, so much. And so, I think it benefited him when Roman popped up and started to become the new target, because then we were like, oh yeah, Cena's pretty cool. Like, Cena's pretty chill. But it also helped. Like, I think what really turned the tide is his feud with AJ. When he put AJ Styles over as big as he did, people realized, okay, when he sees somebody that he thinks is worth putting over, like a AJ Styles, like a CM Punk, he knows when people are bigger than him in that moment, and he does that. Not all the time, because obviously with Nexus and everything else, there was some problems there, But for the most part, when he sees an opportunity to do that, he does that now, and it's really awesome to see that.
Well, not only that, but I mean, ultimately he did win the title from AJ, but that was months after their feud, so I get
Right.
that. But how many times he, like you said, he put AJ over, and you're talking about how him seeing it, knowing it, recognize it. The man's last WrestleMania match, he got squashed by the Undertaker.
Yeah.
In 3 minutes, squashed.
Yeah.
Like, who in their right mind in his whole career, even when he was just coming up, who squashed John Cena? Besides Brock Lesnar, I know Brock did it once. So 2 people that have done it, Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
So John Cena's been squashed a couple of times. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. But yes, I agree. I think everybody went through a phase of hating John Cena. And like I said, for a while, it was cool to hate John Cena. You chanted John Cena sucks during his theme music just for the fun of it because everybody was doing it. So
yeah, well, and part of it was because we went to that Smackdown in Nashville. I think it was the go home before SummerSlam, right? When it was him and AJ.
Cut the promo in the ring. Yep.
Yeah. And I'll never forget. There was a little kid in front of me that was like 7, and there was 3 grown men behind him, me and 2 of my other buddies. And Cena came out, and we were chanting "Cena sucks," and the kid turned around and got in my face and went, "Let's go, Cena!" And I went back, "Cena sucks." So we were like going back and forth, and it's like at that point it was fun to do that with that kid because Cena was definitely the kid's babyface hero.
Yep.
And all the grown marks like me were like, no, we hate Cena because he wins so much. Right. So it was like he was definitely the definition of a polarizing figure in WWE that has now turned into one of the biggest legends in all of WWE history.
That is 100% true and belongs on Mount Rushmore to bring our conversation full circle. I think it's hard to deny that John Cena is on the Mount Rushmore of the WWE. We are approaching 50 minutes of record time here. We haven't even talked about Money in the Bank. This is supposed to be the Money in the Bank preview show. Good conversation. If you guys are enjoying this at PBW Podcast, give us some feedback. Let us know what you think about what we've talked about. We appreciate your feedback very much. Let's get into it, Andy. Money in the Bank coming up this Saturday. Let's talk about the matches, and then we'll give some predictions. First of all, the men's Money in the Bank match. The field has not been set yet. I think as of time of recording, there's 1 spot left. You've got Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, Omos, Riddle, and 1 spot to be named. I assume we'll get that on SmackDown on Friday. But pretty big field, man. I really enjoyed the Battle Royal they had on Raw to get Riddle back in it. I normally don't enjoy those throwaway Battle Royals, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah, and I think there was 6 world champions in the Battle Royal itself.
It was insane.
I mean, obviously you had Jinder was in there, Dolph was in there, but I think AJ was in there. Miz was in there. Ciampa was in there, I know for sure. Obviously Riddle. T-Bar was in there, and T-Bar was I really enjoyed T-Bar's performance in the Battle Royal. But yeah, I love when they make Battle Royals feel important, and when you put important people in it for something like the Money in the Bank, it adds so much to it. So it's definitely a stacked one. I feel like the winner is very obvious and very clear, and if it's anything other than the person I'm talking about, then it depends on who it is and how they do it. But I really I can only see one direction that this is going in, and I'm hoping we go that way.
I can see, I know where you're going, and I hope that everybody's on board with it, but I can see a couple of the directions. We'll get to that in just a minute. But it's a stacked field, man. I hate that AJ Styles is not in it. I think he belongs in this match. He's only been in 1 Money in the Bank match, if I'm correct, maybe 2. One that I'm thinking of when he had the interaction with Shinsuke. I think that was.
And then he was in the.
That was 17.
He was in the 2020.
He was in 2020. That's right.
Yeah.
At the Towers. That's right. So he was in 2 of them.
Yep.
which is a fantastic Money in the Bank match, by the way. Don't
It's
sleep
so
on that.
stupid that it's amazing.
But it's so good.
It's so
It's so
fun.
good.
It's so fun.
All right, women's Money in the Bank ladder match. This field is set, I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Lacey Evans, Asuka, Shotzi, and Raquel Rodriguez. I believe that field is set.
I think so.
Again, another star-studded field. I mean, you don't have a Charlotte, you don't have a Bailey, you don't have a Sasha. Two of those ladies, or all three of them, are out right now. Actually,
Yep.
you don't have those big names, but the biggest names that you could possibly have right now are in this match.
Yep. Yeah, and this is the one that I have no idea who's going to walk away with this one. To be completely
Yeah, I'm
honest, and
clueless.
it's
I'm
it's
clueless.
there's so many different directions, and I feel like everyone in the match can win it, and I'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like we can go somewhere really interesting with this. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for that one a whole lot. I'm excited for the men's one too, but I'm excited for this one because of the fact that it's so wide open on who could win it.
Yep, it is 100%. Speaking of women, Ronda Rousey defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Natalya. Listen, I know you're not excited for this match. I know you're not. I can feel it even through the computer screen. I feel it. But man, we talk about Ronda Rousey not being able to cut promos. What a segment they had on SmackDown the other night. I loved it. You may have hated it.
Where she dressed up as Ronda pushing the stroller and
Ronda come out talking about her Botox and all this. Man, I enjoyed it.
It was fine. It was fine.
It was better than 90% of Ronda Rousey promos.
Right, but you still polish a turd and it's still a turd. But I agree. It was better than most of the stuff she's done. I don't care about Ronda Rousey versus Natalya. I don't care about Ronda Rousey as champion. I have zero interest for this match. I may not even fully pay attention to this match, to be completely honest with you. This is Omos Lashley level of could care less about this match for me.
Okay. So you cared more about Ronda and Charlotte than Ronda and Natty?
Absolutely.
Okay.
At least I knew Ronda Charlotte was going to be decent. I don't think this is going to be good.
Okay, we'll see what happens then. I'm not trying to sit here and defend it because I'm certainly not looking forward to it either. But I don't think it's going to be the worst thing on the card. Let me just put it that way. Anyway,
I'll let you know when I hear the rest of the card because I completely forget. There's so Forbidden Door being last week and this week, I completely forget what matches on what show at the time.
Well, aside from the two Money in the Bank matches, every other match is for a title, and I think that's awesome. The next match, the Raw Women's Championship, Bianca Bel Air versus Carmella, one that was thrown together, but could be fine, I guess, right? I mean, give Bianca, a former champion, to go up against somebody that can cut a promo that like we saw on Monday. Interesting. Wouldn't be my first, second, or third choice, but still will be okay.
Well, I think it's Money in the Bank is always one of those that like the championship match isn't as important as the Money in the Bank matches are.
Sure. Yep.
And so you want all your star power, or at least a majority of your star power in the women's Money in the Bank match. And like we talked about earlier, when there's no Sasha, no Charlotte, and no Bailey, you kind of are hand tied with what you can do to a certain extent. But you also got to remember, like, Carmella's got a lot of great history at Money in the Bank. Like she has won more than she has lost at Money in the Bank. Also, thank her for bringing back Titantrons that look amazing because her new Titantron is awesome. I absolutely love the new Titantron. I'm excited for this because I love Bianca Belair, and Carmella is not my favorite women's wrestler ever, but she can hold her own. And so I think it's going to be very interesting. I think she'll sell like crazy for Bianca. So this one's one of those I'm really looking forward to. There's no chance that a title is switching hands in this match at all, but I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, it's always great to see Carmella get her just due and get a spot in a championship match because she doesn't get it very often. For whatever reason. So I'm glad that she is getting this opportunity. So kudos to Mella and all her hard work. Again, a lot of people that are listening might disagree with us, but that's My opinion, that's Andy's opinion. You have your opinion. That's why we host the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. That's why we are here to talk about it. All right. Bobby Lashley versus Theory for the United States Championship. You just said, well, I won't get into predictions just yet. Let me go another direction here. We started this with a pose down. It's been very interesting to see how they've worked this feud and how it's kind of progressed along. But I'm still not like super sold on this idea. And I think it's because we only have one world champion, and I've been a very big advocate of making the US and the Intercontinental title be held by somebody of main event level to bring that title to prominence on the show. And Theory is getting there. He's just not there yet. And I need somebody to be there. You know what I mean?
And I think Lashley could be there. Like, Lashley was a former WWE champion.
Agree.
Lashley can definitely hold that up. If they are going to put the title on Lashley, they got to put a mouthpiece with him, though. They have to put somebody with him to cut a promo.
But as a babyface, who are you going to put with him?
I mean, I'm trying to think who they have.
Like I have said before, you have kind of scoffed at this idea, but I'm going to bring it up again because we're talking about it. Max Dupree and the model faction, but he could be a tweener, and it would be okay.
He could be.
Like
I think Cedric Alexander would be fine.
Yeah, maybe. I like Lashley in this model group with Max Dupree. I think it'd be great. I really do.
Yeah, my only concern is remember when Lashley was showing his poses of his butt and everything else, and how stupid all that era of Lashley was horrendous.
Yeah, I know.
So him staying away from the model stuff like that is I think better than for everybody than if he embraces it. Now, if they change Max Dupree, LA Knight, to just be a manager, I think that would work really well. I don't know though. I can't think of anybody else though that would like fit that role
right
for him. Because I would have said like a Malcolm Bivens, but obviously he is no longer in the company.
Not even Malcolm Bivens anymore.
Not even Malcolm Bivens. Man, I don't know. But you got to find somebody. You got to find somebody.
Because your main champion on the show has got to be able to cut a promo. And I get that you got to learn, but Lashley's a veteran at this point. He should have learned how to talk.
And like, obviously Gunther is not the greatest promo ever, but he's fine. Like he does fine. And Fabian Eichner, which I don't even remember. Ludwig, yeah, whatever it is now. He cuts a good promo too. So like, you got those two guys together, that works perfectly well. You need to find somebody for Lashley to talk for him.
I agree. I totally agree. All right, let's move on to the final match of the night. Not in any particular order, obviously. The Usos defending the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships against the Street Profits in what I expect on a show with two ladder matches to be a potential match of the night. You give these guys some time. Holy cow.
Yep, I completely agree. I think this is going to be the one that could potentially steal the show. Two really fantastic tag teams going together, putting in the work. Yep. I think it's going to be awesome to see it. As long as we stay away from shenanigans and everything else, have just a straight match for the titles, I think it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, we've had a lot of shenanigans on Raw and SmackDown when these two teams have wrestled. Although there was a clean pin on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think Jey Uso, I think, is the one that got pinned. So there was a clean pin.
They got pinned 2 times in a row.
That's true. They did.
Because Sheamus and Drew pinned them, and then it's a great way to make your tag team champions look. Your unified tag team champions. It's a great way to make them look.
Well, you'll see the way they look when we get to the pay-per-view because it's prediction time. Let's talk about who we think is going to win these matches. Give some thoughts. Let's go ahead and start with the tag team title match. I've got the Usos all the way in this one. There's zero chance they lose this match.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Usos are going to hold the title for as long as Roman. Maybe they'll probably drop him just before Roman does, and then I think that's going to play into the fact that when Roman loses those titles. So yeah, I completely agree.
I think it could be interesting though if they did it the other way around. If Roman lost his title first, then he got jealous of the Usos for still having titles.
Yeah.
You know, like if I can't
Or they
have
could
what I
turn on
want
him.
you, or they could turn on, or he could just turn on them or whatever. Like if I can't have what I want, you can't have what you want, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's 100,000,000 different directions you could go with that storyline when the time comes.
Absolutely.
So, very interesting. So we're both in unison. We're picking the Usos in this. All right. Lashley, in theory, for the U.S. title. Again, I don't see a title switch here. I think Theory finds a way to win this match.
I think this is just to make Theory feel big for when he faces Cena at SummerSlam, and so I think Theory walks away with the title here, retains. I think it's going to be fine. I think Theory is going to sell like crazy for Lashley, and I think Lashley's going to make Theory look as strong as he can in defeat. And so yeah, I like Theory to win this one.
I don't think Theory needs to hit his finish to win, though. I don't think it needs to be like a straight 1, 2, 3. It's got to be a roll up. It's got to be some sort of wonky finish. Nobody has to get involved, but it has to be something that's not traditional. If it is, that's fine, but that would just still makes Lashley feel big. Could even be a DQ for all I care. I mean, it could happen. I don't want it to happen, but it could. Bianca Bel Air versus Carmella. I think we're both in unison here. Bianca Bel Air wins this match going away. I mean, there's no way she loses this one. No. Ronda and Natty, same thing. No way Ronda loses this match.
No, absolutely not. I'm fine if she does. Like, great. Let Natalya have the title and then let Natalya lose it as soon as she can. But no, it's fine. Ronda's going to win.
Okay. Ronda wins. Now we go to the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Again, Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Lacey Evans, Asuka, Shotzi, and Raquel Rodriguez. The one that we say is really up in the air. A million different directions you could go with this. But Andy, if you got to pick a winner, who are you picking here?
I've come down to two, and I think you'll like one of the two that I've come down to.
That's fine. That's fine.
Because I've come down to Alexa and Liv. I'm between those two of who I think is going to win. Because I think it's going to be a babyface. Because I think the men's is going to be the heel.
Right.
So I think it's time, man. Give Liv her chance. Give Liv the Money in the Bank briefcase. And so I want to see Liv win it.
I think there's a good chance Liv wins. I really do. It's hard for me to pick against Becky Lynch, though, in this situation. I don't know if it's time to pay off this I'm frustrated, I'm not getting what I want storyline. Don't know if we're there yet, but this would be the way to do it. However, I'm going to pick a dark horse here. Don't be surprised if Raquel Rodriguez doesn't win this match.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think she has a fantastic shot to win this match. You talk about the Money in the Bank propelling somebody's career that has done some great things, strong showings against Ronda Rousey on SmackDown. This is the perfect way to do it.
Absolutely.
Give her,
I completely
and
agree.
you talk about a babyface winning, like boom, there you go. And it will be, I don't know. I have a feeling like it's possible. All right, let's go to the men's. Drew, Sheamus, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, Omos, Riddle, and a player to be named later. I know who you're thinking, but do you think there's a chance of somebody else? What are you thinking?
I don't think there can't be a chance because first off, nobody wants to see Omos hold it, and Omos is going to do absolutely nothing with it. True. I think Sami Zayn would be very interesting. Yes. I think Sami would be very interesting, but I don't think they'll ever.
That's the one I'm getting caught up on. That's the one I'm getting caught up on just because of the Roman storyline. That's the one that I'm like, oh, but you could.
You could. I think it's going to come down, though, to two people. I think it's going to come down to Seth Rollins and Riddle. And part of the reason why is I think we're getting Rollins versus Riddle at SummerSlam.
Right.
But it has to be Seth Rollins. Rollins has to win this Money in the Bank match because his character kind of needs it. especially after the
Mhm.
losses he's been having over the last 6 months on pay-per-view. He
Yeah.
needs to have this.
Yeah.
You're right. The Sammy Roman storyline is very interesting, but Seth and Roman is always more interesting than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah.
And so that fact, I'm still playing my cards that Cody, if The Rock does not get involved, Cody wins Cody wins the Rumble. Cody beats Roman. Seth cashes in on Cody, and boom, there we go again. We're off to the races with that again, with a different take, a new story on it, and just as interesting, if not more. So Seth has to win this.
So you're picking Seth.
I am picking Seth.
I'm going the opposite. I'm going to Riddle. I think Riddle has so much dang momentum right now that it's
Mm-hmm.
just going to be so hard for them not to put this Money in the Bank briefcase on him.
Yeah.
I'm not, I want Seth to win. Let's put that out there to the universe. I am going to be 100% thrilled if Rollins wins this. But I just think the momentum that they're riding right now with Riddle, I just think they got to keep riding it. And I think you could do that and you can get Becky Lynch as the heel holding the women's. If you're going to do opposites, you can do that. And that makes all the sense in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you though, my dark horse is Sami Zayn. Like it's
he's mine too.
if this match does not close the show, look out because you could eat because the last thing you want is Sami Zayn holding the briefcase as we go off the air. Like that's not going to do anybody any good. You know what I mean? But if this match does not close the show, look out because it could be Sami Zayn.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will say this though, it's very interesting. If Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch win on the same night, one, they're the first married couple ever to do that, but also they won the Rumble on the same night and they won their main event WrestleMania matches on the same night. So don't be shocked if both of them do not win together at Money in the Bank as well.
I ain't gonna be mad at that.
I wouldn't be mad at it either.
Making history, they are.
my only concern and my only problem with Riddle, and it's probably putting too much logic in it for pro wrestling and for WWE, is the fact that they said that if Roman beat him in that match, he can never challenge for the title again. So does that include the Money in the Bank? Does it not? Like there's a lot of things that doesn't fit. It does fit, but it doesn't fit. I think it's very interesting if Riddle does win because Riddle wins the title. Randy returns and turns on Riddle, and we go for the feud for that. But we saw how that went once before with Bray Wyatt, and it did not end very well for a lot of people. So the safe bet and the easiest bet and the best bet to me is Seth walking away with it.
Don't try to apply logic to an illogical situation. That's what Bruce Pritchard always says about wrestling. So I think that's what makes it interesting.
Use logic in wrestling.
Right? I think that's what makes it interesting if Riddle does win, though, because the fact that they've hammered this home that Riddle can't challenge if Roman's champion. Well, wait a minute. What if he has a Money in the Bank briefcase? Like that's the intriguing part to me. Obviously, again, I'm 1,000% with you. Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns is the most intriguing thing WWE could do right now. So I'm all for it, especially, bro, if I know that your storyline with him holding the briefcase until Cody comes back and all that is great. But if he does it to Roman and Brock again at SummerSlam, like
that would be pretty great.
It would be amazing if that happened.
That would be fantastic, and it'd be great in the moment. It'd be amazing in the moment.
Yeah.
But I will say, thinking on it now, Cody beating Roman one-on-one clean fits this whole story better. But man, if that does happen at SummerSlam, I will be freaking out the whole time.
Because I can guarantee you this time, Rollins will not pin Roman this time. He'll be pinning Brock Lesnar this time. They will not have Roman take that pin. Nope. Will not do it. Guaranteed. Because that's what Roman's going to have to hold over his head. It's like, yeah, you won the title, but you didn't beat me.
I think, though, if that does happen, I think that's a very safe bet that The Rock is going to be at WrestleMania. Because I don't think Roman versus The Rock has to be for the title.
Correct.
And I think Seth can hold that title till Mania. Cody wins the Rumble. Cody. And then there's your championship match at WrestleMania.
Yep. And then we run into the issue of the championship match doesn't close WrestleMania because Rock and Roman would be last.
2 nights.
Oh yeah,
Two-night
that's
event.
right. 2 nights. Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Cody
then
Seth
the women,
night 1, Rock Roman night 2.
Then the women would get mad. Ronda Rousey might throw a fit and walk out again. I mean,
let her, please walk away forever. I don't want to see you in a ring again.
One more question about Money in the Bank before we hand out our high spots and turn sandwiches and sign off. Great conversation. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Give us some feedback at PBW Podcast. Sorry we went a few minutes long, but Money in the Bank is always unpredictable. Something always happens that's unexpected, whether it's Brock Lesnar entering the Money in the Bank match on his own and winning it. Do we see what we've seen numerous times before? Do we see a same night cash in?
I hope not. Because I feel like we've done that so many times over the last couple of years. Like, I feel like, I forget how many days the women have actually held their Money in the Bank briefcase, but it's not been it's not been very long.
Mella held it for obviously the longest.
Right.
Because she
Bayley
won
cashed
it.
in the same night.
Yep.
And Alexa Bliss cashed in the same night.
Asuka got it.
Asuka only had it for a day. Or
Yep.
2 days. Yeah.
2 days, whatever. Yeah.
Last year. Who won it last year?
Asuka. No, that was 2 years ago. Who did win it last year?
Not Becky.
I don't even remember.
Who won Money in the Bank last year?
I don't even remember.
It wasn't Bianca.
It wasn't Becky.
No, it wasn't Asuka. It wasn't Ronda. I'm gonna have to look this up.
Shoot, I don't even remember. But anyway, Mella won the Money in the Bank at Money in the Bank. Then they had the rematch on SmackDown. She won it again, and that was right after Money in the Bank. And she held it all the way to the SmackDown after WrestleMania 34.
Yeah.
Because she cashed in after that. So she definitely has held it the longest. But to your point, the women have not held their briefcase very long.
Nikki Cross, remember? Because then she beat.
Oh, shoot. That's right.
Yeah, she beat Rhea the next night.
It's so forgettable. Sorry, it is. It's so forgettable. Anyway, so that being said, I'm going to present this. You said you hope that it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. Here's the scenario I'm presenting. Becky Lynch wins Money in the Bank. She cashes in and beats Bianca, wins the Raw Women's Championship, and then we're off to Becky Ronda at SummerSlam to unify the titles. That's the scenario happening. I see.
I see that scenario, but I don't see her beating Becky. I mean, I don't see her beating Bianca. I see her cashing in on Ronda.
And then they have
the title off of Ronda. And then at SummerSlam, we may do like a triple threat between Becky, Ronda, and Bianca for the title.
Okay.
I could also see it just being Becky Ronda at SummerSlam, and then maybe we hold off on the unification stuff until Survivor Series because we do 1-on-1 anyway. So might as well just wait till then, unify them then if you're going to unify them.
Could do that.
Because I feel like we've already seen Becky come in and beat Bianca in 5 seconds for the title. So I don't think we want to do that again, especially to Bianca.
Why not? It'd be fun.
It would not be fun. But it'd be fun to Ronda because Ronda needs that to happen to her. Like Ronda desperately needs that to happen to her.
I think the only way we get a same night cash in is if it's Becky.
Yeah. Well, Roman's not even going to be there, so they can't even cash in on him if the men win.
Now there could be a situation where like Sammy wins it and like Roman shows up or something. I don't know. I'm not saying Sammy's going to beat Roman. I'm just saying there could be some sort of schmoz something. I have no idea.
And that's part of the reason why I don't want Sammy to win it is because I think there's a 0% chance he wins the championship with the briefcase. I think with Seth, there's like almost 100% chance. And I think with Riddle, there's like over a 75% chance that he wins it. But with Sammy, I think it's less than 0 that he cashes in and wins.
No love for Drew McIntyre in this?
No, Drew doesn't need it.
That's true.
Drew can Drew can face Roman at Clash at the Castle, or whatever they're calling it. I think it's Clash at the Castle.
It is. Yeah.
He can face them there, and that's a big enough match without having the briefcase involved.
I mean, yeah, it would kind of be a boring scenario if he took it and he said, I'm cashing it in on this date for this match because you can have it without it. So,
yeah,
I agree. All right, before we sign off, we always hand out our high spots and turd sandwiches, the highs and the lows. But this time, of course, pay-per-view preview edition, what we think the high spot of Money in the Bank is going to be, what we think the turd sandwich of Money in the Bank is going to be. I'll start with Andy's turd sandwich. I think I already know what it is, but I'm going to ask him anyway. What do you got for your turd sandwich?
Yeah, my turd sandwich is Ronda and Natty. I don't care about this match. I'm not the biggest fan of either one of them, and so whatever. Let's just do it and get out of the way.
I'm going to go to the other women's match. I'm going to say Mel and Bianca. Just because both are quite inexperienced in the ring, and I just don't think it's going to go well.
You would say Bianca's inexperienced? And Carmella?
Yep.
More so than Ronda?
I attribute that to who they're in the ring with, and Ronda's in the ring with Natty, who has more experience than all three of these women combined.
Right.
So I'm going to say that Natty's going to hold Ronda up, but you put inexperience and or not as much experience in the ring with not as much experience. I don't think it's going to work. I'm a huge fan of Mel. I just got done saying that. Mela needs a great dance partner to be able to have really good matches, and I don't think Bianca's that.
Wow. Sam Roberts over here. Good Lord. Good Lord, man.
The last professional broadcaster.
The Bianca hate is real over here.
You know I'm not a fan.
I know, but Bianca's a great in-ring competitor. I think she could. I think this could. It could be special. It could be something. It could be. I could see it going both ways. I will definitely say that. I could definitely see it going both ways.
Okay. All right. How about our high spot? We might agree on this one, but what do you think the high spot of the night is going to be?
I think the high spot's going to be the men's Money in the Bank match. I think
Agreed.
That's going to be.
Yep.
It's always. I think both matches are always so much fun.
Yep.
But I think the men's, with the feel that they have, and with guys like Seth and Riddle and Sami Zayn in it, I think it's going to be fun. But also, like, Drew McIntyre is so athletic for his size, and Sheamus is so athletic for his size.
I was going to say, we haven't even mentioned Sheamus this whole conversation. Like, it's going to be
right.
And there's a player to be named later that, as the time of recording, we don't even know who it's going to be.
The other person has to be AJ. And so if you put AJ in there with all of these guys, I think it's very interesting. I think it could also be Finn Balor. I think you could put Balor in there as well.
Yeah.
But Balor and Damian Priest are too busy losing to the Mysterios on main event to probably be involved.
Well, it was supposed to be a match between KO and Ezekiel to figure out who the last spot was going to be, and they pulled the match from Raw, which I assume because KO either had travel issues, he's sick, or something.
Had the Rhea Ripley problem.
Exactly. So,
yeah,
who knows? I guess we'll find out on SmackDown who it's going to be. I agree. Yeah. I think it's got to be AJ. Just don't think you can leave him off this pay-per-view, but they've left him off pay-per-views that I've said they shouldn't before. So, what do I know? Clearly. All right, man. Anything else to add before we sign off on this episode?
No, man. I'm Money in the Bank is always one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. I consider it one of the big four. I don't really consider Survivor Series one of the big four anymore. But I'm looking forward to Money in the Bank, and it's always going to be a lot of fun.
It is. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, Survivor Series has certainly lost its luster over the years. It used to be a big deal, but, not nearly as much anymore. But that's fine.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. We apologize for going a little bit long, but we're not going to stop great conversations for the sake of time. I mean, we're having good stuff and we're talking about wrestling. It's what we do here. It's why we have a podcast, so we can talk about wrestling. We want you to interact and talk about wrestling with us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Andy's at Andy_PBWP. I am at Chris Buster. Give us a follow as well. We appreciate it. Throw some love to our partners, bodyslam.net, the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell. Sports Wire Radio over at sportnarium.com/player. Throw Tom and those guys some love. I know they would appreciate it as well. And again, thanks for hanging out with us. Be sure to join us every Monday for Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation, our fantasy booking show, and as well right back here on Thursdays as we recap all the news and the notes from the current wrestling product. Thanks so much for hanging out with us again. For Mr. Andy York, I'm Chris Belcher. This has been the Thursday edition of Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We'll catch you guys down the road.